everything we've been talking about for the last few years about the war of Gog and Magog is happening, whether you like it or not. Gog is rising. Gog is rising, whoever it is. But the Gemara specifically says that the Mashiach is not going to come until everyone is broke. Until everyone doesn't have any money. So, wait a minute. How could this be? The stock market, which I haven't followed in many, many months, but someone asked me about it the other day, so I looked at it. The market is at all-time highs. I mean, it doubled since I left it just a couple of years ago. There's this stupid, illusionary investment called Bitcoin that was worthless when I left a few years ago and became even more worthless today, but people are paying even a higher price for it. So I think it was maybe like 2,000 a couple of years ago, and now it's like 7,000, 8,000. It reached 8,000. The dot-com bubble that we saw in the year 2000 is like a miniature bubble next to the bubble that we're in right now. You have companies that literally generate nothing and are being valued at $50 or $100 billion for absolutely no reason whatsoever. And the few that are generating something are also being valued at extraordinarily high prices. The point I'm trying to make is not to get you guys to either buy or sell anything. That's not my business. What I'm trying to tell you is that the way of Hashem, at least what we've seen, is that it's a pattern. There's a pattern of things that happen. And Hashem brings us very, very high. Very, very high. He brings us to an ultimate peak before He breaks everything. We get to a culmination point. We get to a high before everything collapses. If you see every major crash that has ever happened in the stock market history, real estate history, any business history, any crash that has happened on a personal history, people's personal lives, major billionaires, millionaires, whatever, always went that way. Always they hit a peak and then there was no way but down. Sometimes it settled down for a little while and then it was a bigger crash later. But either way, that's generally how it works. Hashem brings you really, really high and then He collapses. And it seems like all of this is happening right now. And the oil market is next because what's happening in Saudi Arabia is unprecedented. And I think that anyone that's not worried, it's time to get worried because the money that anyone has in their accounts, investments, and all of that stuff is not going to help them in any way, shape, or form. Because when the eventual crash happens, it's not going to be like any crash before. It's not going to be like the 2008 crash that I saw with my own eyes. It's not going to be like the crash of 2000, the .com. It's not going to be like the long-term capital crash of 1996. A bunch of smart guys, a couple of smart guys, ran a big hedge fund, over-leveraged it, it blew up, but almost the whole entire market almost blew up because of them, 1996. It's not going to be like the real estate recession of 91. It's not going to be like the major, major collapse of 1987, where the market dropped over 20% in a matter of minutes. It's not going to be like that. At the end of days, when Hashem decides to press the button, you're all going to witness something I've been saying for years, but you're going to see it, and unfortunately, it's going to hurt. No one is going to be protected from it. And you're going to see the real Bitcoin. You're going to see what's the real Bitcoin. This Bitcoin right now, this thing that's 7,000, 8,000, that stuff is nonsense. A bunch of people are going to end up losing a bunch of money, but I'm not talking about that. The real Bitcoin is that everyone that's working night and day chasing a dollar. Everyone in every country is chasing a dollar. Everyone in every country is chasing money. Everyone thinks they're convinced they're going to be rich. There's no one that goes to work every day that doesn't think that at some point in his life he's going to be rich. That's what keeps people going. Even if they're going to make only $70,000 this year, or $80,000 this year, or $100,000 this year, somehow, like, maybe it's not going to come from the job, but I'm going to keep doing this job until I get rich with something else. Everyone thinks they're going to be rich, and that's why they work overtime. That's why they do all these things they do. They forget God and chase money. But what's going to happen? The Gemara says that everyone's going to be broke. How could everyone go broke? How could the guy Steve Bezos from Amazon just declared the richest man in the world has close to $100 billion? 95 billion or something like that. It's a ridiculous amount. How could he go broke? How could Bill Gates go broke? How could all these people go broke? How? Well, you're all going to discover that Hashem runs the world, and he's going to show you what the real Bitcoin is. By Bitcoin, I mean illusion. The illusion is that you're going to discover that the dollar you have in your pocket has been the real Bitcoin the whole time. I'm not going to over-elaborate on this financial terms, but just for the purpose of content for you guys, so you understand what I'm talking about, until the late 70s, the dollar was backed by gold. The dollar was backed by gold, meaning that for every dollar they printed, they had an assurance that they have a certain amount of gold justifying the value of the dollar. Meaning, you can print as many dollars as you want, or any currency as much as you want, but if you have nothing backing it, then it's worthless. It's just paper. So until the 70s, and I believe it's 1976, if my memory serves me right, the dollar was backed by gold. At that point, the U.S. decided to no longer back the dollar by gold, make it a freer currency, but they would justify its value by reporting things that are called M1, M2, and M3, which is called money supply. Some of you may know this, some of you don't. It's economy class maybe. Point is that it's a controlled distribution of currency. So you don't just print currency out of control. Because if there's no checks and balances of how much money you print, you just print any amount of money and overnight become the richest country in the world. So obviously there has to be something to control. That's why it was always backed by gold. Because there's a finite amount of gold in the world. So therefore you can't print more money than you have gold. If it's backed by gold, or if it's backed by oil, or if it's backed by whatever. When that stopped, they said, we're going to control it by reporting to you, dear folks, how much money we have, so you know that we're not going crazy. So that was the checks and balance system. What 99% of the population doesn't know is that they stopped reporting the number over 15 years ago. Meaning no one actually knows how much money, how much dollars are in circulation, and no one really cares. Because when the US government needed hundreds of billions of dollars to be printed in a second, they were able to do it just by pressing a few buttons on a computer, and it magically appeared because we needed it to save the crash we had in 2008. All the banks, all the hedge funds, all the different institutions, mortgage companies, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, all these different mortgage companies, the money had to come from somewhere. What do you think? They actually printed all of that money overnight? Even if you tried printing it, they would be printing it from 2008 all the way till now and still not finished. So what did they just press buttons? And since it's not being reported or monitored by anyone, they can print as much as they want. Because that shows that they don't have as much. But it's, again, another illusion. The point I'm trying to make is that that's the real Bitcoin. That's the real illusion. Everyone thinks that their money's worth something. So they think, listen, if you think the market's going to crash, I'll sell the stocks. If you think oil is going to go up, I'll buy oil. If you think, this is going to do this, I'll do this. If you think I'm going to do this. No, what I'm trying to tell you is that it's all going to become worthless. All of it. At the end of the days, it's all going to be worthless. Oil will be worthless. Dollar will be worthless. All currency will be worthless. It all will be worthless. Which means you have to now decide, the second, which currency are you going to chase until Mashiach comes? You have a spiritual currency and you have a monetary currency. Tell me by the end of the lecture.